Hello and welcome to this, the sixth part of the Midgar playthrough from Avalanche's Final Fantasy VII playthrough. In the last episode we showed you how to go through Wall Market and actually fight our third boss, Apps, going through some of the sewers areas, obtaining new materia and fighting obviously bosses. We talked about the concept of the lack of the bestiary in Final Fantasy VII and why this was happening, because obviously we've got the secret items hidden on a lot of enemies. In this episode we're going to be carrying through where we left off at the end of the train graveyard, going up through the pillar that's holding up the plate to Sector 7 slums near Tifa's 7th Heaven, and then we'll be fighting our next boss.
So, here we are just before we're about to climb the pillar. We can see that there's obviously a lot of fighting going on there. You can see the big pillar there on the left being supported in the middle, and then there's obviously another aspect of the pillar on the right. It's a big structure keeping the whole of Midgar supported. Now you might be able to work out who a few of these characters are. Obviously at the top there is Barret. And then there's going to be another character who's going to get knocked over the edge. Not quite sure how he can get knocked over the edge and still be alive. And obviously you'll quickly work out that it is Wedge. I'm very happy that he's known his name. Barret's up top, you need to go help him. Now, what everyone's going to now realise is that this pillar is going to be blown up soon, so everyone needs to do a job quickly. Tifa's saying there's a little girl marling in the bar. You remember earlier we asked her to look after the bar. So Tifa's saying everyone needs to just get away and get the hell out of Sector 7, you know. Completely evacuate everything. Now if we try and go any other direction, we'll get told we have to go. Now as we climb up here, we're going to see various members of Avalanche. First is Biggs. A lot of these choices are optional, so if you want to say that you're interested, you can just say I'm worried about you. I'll select you know the Barret's up there. Climbing up the pillar, we will find some random battles. They won't be that tricky though. There is only two of you now, obviously, though, with Tifa and with Cloud. As you can see, there's someone up there trapped, and it's our favourite party member, Jessie. She always likes getting trapped. Just say hello to Cloud, and then you want to say Deb said last time. This improves the love points, which I spoke about a while ago in one of the earlier films. One little random fact for you there. They're all the sort of the same type of fight against a couple of sort of aerial combatants. Here there's only one. I'm not going to use the attack command with Tifa because I'm doing something called limit building. We've talked about limit building before. There's only a potion available from this chap. Right, now Cloud's got over half his limit break, I'm going to start attacking. When we fight the boss, it won't take very long for Cloud to get his limit break active. In fact, it might even get fully active today. Almost, so now kill the enemy. There we go. So Cloud's got almost a full limit break. So now we're going to come to a short sequence where we find Barret, and then we're going to get into our boss fight number 4. Here it is. You've got to be very careful here. Don't press OK now. You've got to press menu straight away now. That allows you to give a chance to equip Barret with everything. Now, Barret already has the best weapon he can have, but he's only got an iron bangle. And we bought that extra spare Titan bangle, if you remember, in the slums, or a mithril armor, if you like. So now we can equip that to Barret. And now, if you have a look, there's plenty of material left. Also, I'm going to make another alteration. I'm going to take the lightning material from Cloud and move it here. And I'm going to put the restore material that was on Aeris here. That enables us to now cast a Cure All spell, and then I'm just going to equip Barret with Ice, Fire, and Cover. So Barret, if you have a look, has the most hit points, so I'm going to get him to cover. He's only got a little bit more, but also we don't have enough material to fill all of our slots up. So now we're ready for our boss battle. Before we do that though, I'm just going to quickly cast Cure All now, so we're all on full life. If you have a look, Barret's limit's obviously not up at all. Tifa's got a full limit break, and Cloud almost has it. Now we're ready to fight. Just have a quick drink before Reno arrives. So he's now just activated the plate destruct system. No one getting away of Reno and the Turks. Talking about himself in third person. I think it's a bit big for himself, but you're going to see in a second he's going to get brought down to size. Now, usual strategies with boss battles apply. Just, you know, hit the hardest limit breaks and magic you've got. We've got plenty of magic spells. Now, Cloud isn't able to attack at the moment, so what we have to do is we have to attack the pyramid that's holding Cloud in place. So if you swap there and it says Pyramid 8, you attack that, and now it will disappear. So you notice the fire there from Barret doing about 80 damage, probably the best spell for Barret to use. You can also try and steal off Reno. Not the easiest thing to do, but you might get lucky. Now, on some versions you sometimes get an item off him, but it is random, it's usually an ether. If you don't get an ether from stealing, you usually get an ether from winning the battle. A lot of people think that you can't steal off sort of bosses, but often they actually have the best items. So Cloud are now going to cast Cross Slash. Hopefully this will get a paralysis on, which then means that the rest of the battle will be easy. I'm not sure if we have. If he's not moving, we've got it. I don't really need to cast Cure All yet. I just see fire from Barret's doing a lot more damage, so try and use fire wherever possible. I only have the one fire spell though. Whenever he casts Pyramid as well, it's important to get rid of it as soon as possible, because if all three of you get put in Pyramids, that's it, the game's over. Fire and Ice are the ones that Reno's sort of weakest against, and the main reason for that is that he casts an electric spell, so he has sort of resistance to electricity. It doesn't really matter which spells you cast though, because at this stage, as long as your characters are all in double figures, you shouldn't die that easy. And now we're going to cast Cure All with Cloud, which will just sort of make sure none of us are going to die anytime soon. On your game, Reno has about 1,000 hit points, on mine he has a bit more. So, you know, give or take, 10 or 11 hits should be enough. Also, in your game, you'll probably find that Reno only has enough magic to cast the Pyramid spell about 3 or 4 times. And once he says it's time, that's the end of the boss battle. You'll notice that whenever you fight sort of people like the Turks, you'll fight many more of them as you go on. You won't actually ever kill them. What you'll do is they'll run off. Because obviously if you killed them, it would affect the storyline. So it's something that Final Fantasy VII has in terms of linear playthrough. It doesn't ever let you kill an enemy which then reappears later on, because that would be seen as sort of not correct, if you like. Cloud's now going to have a little chance to stop the time bomb, and we're going to meet another Turk, Tseng. Who tells you that if you're going to touch it, it's going to blow. Barret trying to stop him. It's good that in this sort of scene he's shooting at an aeroplane which isn't, sorry, a helicopter which isn't moving, but yet nothing happens. Cloud's always trying to be the macho guy, wondering what's going to happen with Aerith. Find and catch the last remaining ancient. Now, at the moment you won't yet know what that means, but soon you're going to learn about it. And Tifa's just been told she's alright. And a quick bitch slap there. So now we have to get out, because the plate that's holding the roof above Floating City Midgar is about to explode on Sector 7. Now obviously there's 2 wires, so you've got a 50-50 choice about collecting the right one. It is this one. If you go over to the other side, nothing will happen. Barret in a second will notify you that we need to get the hell out of here on this zip wire. Come on, Barret. There we go. So now you just jump over to Barret, and he will then tell you to jump on. You can't die here, so don't worry guys. It's not like the first bombing mission where if you didn't get out in time you'd die. Here you can't. And then quick F&B and choose where you zip out. I'd love to know what the wire's actually attached to that's clipped onto that sort of holding support. But yeah, as you see there, the sector's completely sort of detached now from the whole city. And yeah, the residents of Sector 7 now, a lot of them are basically dead. Because they'll have had a big crash. You might recognise from this FMV the little slide from Sector 6, which Aerith and Cloud stayed on top when they had a little discussion. And then you get some President Shinra admiring his handiwork. Really is an evil man. And there is the Shinra Tower, which is our next port of call before we leave Midgar. Now, after this boss battle, we're going to need to sort of regroup and find out the bearings of what Avalanche is going to do now. Obviously, the slums have been infiltrated, everything's been blown to smithereens, there'll be nothing left. A lot of people who are innocent will have died, and this really, really has sort of irked Barrett. You'll notice a little yellow blob in the corner there. Don't worry about that for the time being, we'll be able to collect that soon enough. I'm going to let a bit of this play through, but essentially it's just Barrett having an FMV sequence. He's really worried mainly about Marlene, obviously, because she was looking after the bar in Sector 7. Now, whilst we were able to get out Biggs, Wedge and Jessie, obviously Wedge, Aerith was tending to on the floor before she went off to go and see Marlene, and Jessie and Biggs were on the tower when it blew, so obviously we have to assume that they've died now. The game actually never does show this though, but we can be certainly sure that it has happened. Barrett's really angry. This is obviously the sort of walkway, if you like, between Sector 6 and 7, where Tifa came through. Right, I'm going to fade out here. What happens over the next minute is just we have a quick chat about what we're going to do next. Now we know Marlene's. Right, as we fade out here, Cloud just walked out from a bit of an argy-bargy with Tifa and Barrett, and he's going to have another one of his little sort of mental moments, if you like, just as we walk up here. Now Cloud has a vague flashback here, where the phrase, "In my veins courses the blood of the ancients, and I'm one of the rightful heirs of this planet." This will become apparent much later on in the game what that means about Sephiroth. And we're now going to walk off and try and find out what's happened to Aerith. So the first port of call is back to Aerith's house. So, back the usual way. We might have one or two battles here. Usual sort of strategy applies here. Bit more experience for you guys, bit more training. Any training you can do here is good. Obviously now we've got the steel material, we can try and see if there's any items we can find for these guys. One of the first things I'm going to do as well is I'm going to get rid of the cure-all spell and put it back to Boltor. Nothing to steal off this item, off this enemy. So just keep hitting it with all your spells. We've got loads of MP, so there's no concern. And a chance to cross-slash again. Paralyse him, as you can see he's not even moving, which means he's completely paralysed and he won't do anything until we knock him out of paralysis. It usually takes a few turns until he dies. Right, I'm not going to skip through this bit actually because there's a secret item coming up soon, but it's only a secret item if you've followed this playthrough, so make sure that you have stuck to this playthrough, guys. Tune in every week like I request, and the reason why is this. As we go back into this area, I skipped it last time, there's a lot of shops we could go around. But if we go into here, this woman here just gives you a bit about Avalanche. Avalanche or Avant-Garde. Now, the little boy here who's on a little sleep, if you speak to him, he bought an item with the money he saved. And he gives you a turbo ether. Now, he only does this if the money that he has saved hasn't been stolen. And obviously, we had the chance to steal his money earlier, it's like 5 gil or something. And the item we've got is a turbo ether, which restores all of your MP. Now, at the moment, that's not really that important because we can restore our MP by 100 using this ether. So we don't need to worry about it too much at the moment. But it's a clever little trick that people don't realise, and you ought to do it. And also, if you haven't already, check out the newsletter here to get a load of free items much later on in the game, but you only get one chance to see this item before disc 3. So now, I'm not going to bother fading out because we're at the target destination. Again, items in the garden, if you haven't got those, make sure you get them now. So we're about to speak to Elmira Gainsborough, which is Aerith's mother. Or so we think. Now the reason why Aerith wanted to go was to protect Marlene, because Aerith is an ancient. Now, we don't yet know about the ancients, but we'll realise more and more about what the ancients are through this very short VT. The game likes to try and stay true to its colours, so if you have a look there, there's two mates playing next to that lamppost on the left. That is meant to be Biggs and Jessie. Obviously near the Sector 7 slums where their hideout is. Now when the train brings home a lot of people coming home from the war, now we don't know too much about this war because it actually happened before the game's years started. Because the game has a unique numbering system for its years which starts at 4 zeros. But the 4 zeros era started about 5 years before the game took place. So obviously 15 years ago, we don't know what numbering system will have been used for the years then. All we know is it's before, before we need to consider. The same way you've got 0 AD in sort of, in our sort of system, if you like. Elmira went to the station every day to believe that her husband was coming back. Now, the young lady who's passed out, her name is Ifal Nagast. And you'll learn a lot more about her later on when you visit her hometown, which is essentially Aerith's hometown. Please take Aerith somewhere safe. Now, the reason why she is in the Sector 7 slums is because it's the last place that people would look for her, because she is an ancient. Now, essentially, the ancients were an indigenous race to the planet thousands of years ago who had special powers. They believed in the planet. They were kind of people who were sort of quite hippie-ish, but also they had special powers. They were able to communicate with the planet. She suddenly magically knows that her husband's passed away, but of course Elmira doesn't believe her. And then we receive notice that her husband had died. So Aerith was, coincidentally right, if you like, but the time that Aerith told her a few days ago was the time it took them to send the message back to her, because the husband to Elmira Gainsborough was actually fighting in a far western Isles of Wutai. Now, the reason why they've been searching for Aerith for a long time is because Aerith and her mother were hiding. Her birth mother were hiding, and they don't want to go back. And the reason why they want Aerith back is because they want to experiment on her. Now, they believe that the Aerith, that they know will be able to bring happiness to the slums, and that's what they want to tell Elmira. But in reality, the Shinra want to exploit Aerith and find a way to clone her, to reproduce the Ancients' DNA, because it will hold what they believe is the key to unlocking a spiritual land known as the Promised Land, which we will find out later on. Now, very soon, actually, before the end of the Midgar session, we'll find out why they want to go to the Promised Land. But you can imagine, as I want to keep this spoiler-free, anything to do with the Shinra, they're looking to exploit people. So it's clearly for their own gains why they want to find the Promised Land. Now, the Shinra do need her, but it's debatable whether they harm her. It's amazing, in the short time that she was caring for Wedge and getting Marlene back to Sector 6, the team scaled a pillar. So it tells you that sometimes, whilst the game is linear, the game doesn't have a proper concept of time. in the time it took us to scale that pillar in, say, 20 minutes, you know, to be realistic, even though it only took us 2 minutes of game time, Aerith had cared for Wedge, fixed him up, gone to the bar, found Marlene, convinced her to come with her to Sector 6, ran all the way back through to Sector 6, which we don't know how to do because we never actually do it. We go through the sewers after Don Corneo throws us out. Puts her safe at her house, which we are at now, then goes all the way back with Sen in a helicopter, if you like. And as the dialogue's just alluded to here, Barrett's the child's father, and he's really worried about her. And Elmar is worried. Now what's going to happen now is I'm going to fade out. There's a short sort of talk between Barrett and Marlene where Marlene alludes to the fact that Aerith really likes her. Don't tell Tifa. And if you didn't collect the items here, make sure you collect them. I'm going to fade out now until we get back to the War Market. So, just before we go to War Market, I'll just let you see what happens here. It's an important plot point, but essentially we ask Elmira Gainsborough to be a childminder, if you like. Now, the thing is, we ask her to go find somewhere safe. Now, the game doesn't actually tell you where she goes to, and that isn't important because by the time you come back, she's gone and it doesn't affect the gameplay. So Barrett wants to know how to get to the Shinra building, and there's no train that will go up anymore because the main train tracks obviously have been partially blown up because the train that would go to the Shinra building would circle all 8 sectors. And of course, some of those sectors are no longer connected. Sector 6, Sector 7, Sector 8, they aren't connected anymore because Sector 7's blown up. Let's go to War Market, we might find some information there. The War Market is obviously the hub of this sector, and there's going to be a lot of sort of fallout. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fade out and go back to where the crash was, where we came. As we walk in here, this is what's known as an Easter egg in most games. We can find out that the flowers are growing here. Now, that really relies on something which happens post Final Fantasy VII, because we find out that this is the only area of Midgar slums which will grow flowers. If you just walk in and out, I'll quickly show you before we get to War Market. There is a little... Now, that little flash there you just saw of Aerith was actually a glitch. Here we are back in the playground. Now, this yellow orb here, we could have collected it earlier. It's essentially a new materia. It's another piece of yellow materia called Sense. There's only 2 slots left, so I'm going to place it on Cloud. Now, if you have a look here, it says equips the Sense command. All yellow materia equip the new command. Sense allows you to look at an enemy and find out the enemy's relative hit points. So we can look at an enemy, find out how much hit points they've got and how much hit points they've lost, but also work out what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. Now, we're back in War Market here and we have to find out what's going on. Now, if you have a little explore, you find out that this person here says he's got to start over his cooking. The place where we've got the tiara, that's now turned into a materia shop. And you can actually buy cover materia, in case you didn't get it earlier, as well as other materia. I'm going to buy another copy of, I think, Lightning. And I'm going to equip that on one of my characters. Barrett here. Now everyone's got full materia. That isn't sort of of vital importance, but it allows you to make money, because if you grow materia, you can then sell it for a profit. There's not a lot else we can really do here. I'll quickly show you down here. You can see the honeybeam's closed, and you won't be able to get in. They're all laughing at you because you dressed up as a girl. Now, the area we're looking for is the old shop. Now, the reason why it's important, and I'll go through the storyline as well, because everything in Final Fantasy VII, the story proves it. There's only one area where you cannot completely work something out. Now, if you speak to this guy, a lot of the Sector 7 things came down. The owner of the weapon shop scavenged it all. He went out to the plate cross-section next to the Don's mansion. Now, if you speak to these two before we actually went in and fought the boss apps at Don Corneo's mansion in the sewers, they say that he just collects anything, collects any sort of junk. Now, if you speak to the other lady, it's just the same thing. Now, the reason why this is really important, I'm just going to let the thing play through, is that this weapon shop owner always finds random things. But he went to the plate section. Now, if we'd have visited that plate section before and we'd have found out it basically takes you all the way up to the full plate. Now, we know that the plate in Sector 7 got exploded, but the plate in Sector 6 is still active, because don't forget there are 8 plates holding it up. Now, if you speak to the weapon shop owner here, You say, are you going up to the plate? You better have some batteries. And he's repaired them. Why do I need batteries? How about 100 gil for each? You buy some batteries. Now the thing is, these are going to help you climb the plate. You don't yet know how. Before we go to where the plate section is, which is just to our right as we go up here, if we go back into Don Corneo's mansion, we can find some items and set some people free. Obviously those kids want you to go and sort something out. So if we quickly go back in, there's no one at the front door. We can have a little explore. And what you'll find is that some people are a bit tied up. If we go into here, there are some items if you didn't collect them earlier. There's a phoenix down. And there'll be some other stuff around here as well. But also, if we go into this area here, we'll find one of Don Corneo's henchmen just lying around. You don't have to do this, it's completely optional, but I just thought I'd show you everything. And if you have a look and click on him, Koch. You can opt to help him or leave him. They took Don somewhere. Now, the reason why he's there is because he's been sort of tortured by the Shinra because they've realised that he was leaking information and he told Cloud that they're going to explode the plate. Now, if we just go into our menu now, the place is still called War Market. Everyone climbed up this wire. Can we climb it? It leads to the upper world. Alright, we'll climb the wire. Do you know how far it goes up? Barrett calls this the Wire of Hope. Now, if I just quickly show the characters, we are low on hit points and mana. Now, I ought to go back to War Market and use it and go to an inn because they're quite cheap. But I've got tents. They're a bit more expensive, but you can use them at save points, and we're going to find a save point soon. Now, the area from now up to the top of the plate, no battle, so don't have to worry too much about it. It's the Shinra doing. That's the remnants of. Don't remember that Sector 6 is connected to Sector 7, so this will enable us to continue. If you have a look, there's a little slot there. If you just walk up. Now we can't go up there yet because that propeller's stuck. If we come down here, maybe if it puts the battery in, the propeller could work. Now, if you're wondering what this propeller is for, this is a whole load of junk that fell down when the plate exploded. So, you know, old planes, old bits of metal, all sort of scrumbled together. Now, the battery, very conveniently, doesn't start the propeller completely. What it does is it makes the propeller move into an area where you can then jump it. How convenient, you might say. Well, the game probably wouldn't. So, the idea now is to try and climb up this sort of plate section. So now, if we walk up here, find that if you go on here, sorry, I've gone the wrong way now. It's been so long. You have to go up here onto that, all the way here, and you can get to here. And then we have to go up here, and there'll be a second option to use a battery. We obviously bought 3 batteries from the chap, and that just opens that up. Now what we do is we have a choice here. We can either use our third battery or not. I'll just quickly show you. When you get to here, this is the only way to jump onto this bar. But if we continue up like so, there's an option to use our third battery. We don't have to use our third battery, just so you know. But if we use a third battery here, it just opens up the chest with an Ethernet. That's literally all you need to use the battery for. So, this is the area where we need to jump. The game will prompt us again when we get to here. Now what you've got to do is you've got to jump as it's coming towards you. Like so. Do that first time. Usually I take 2 or 3 tries for that. And as we climb now up here, we get to sort of the end of this area, end of the Wire of Hope. If you go into the menu now, it still does it says plate section, doesn't really allude to what it is. Now what we have to do is if you climb up here, like so, and then up here like so, then down, you can then climb up to the top. Now you might be thinking, well, what's at the top of the plate? Well, the plate is what holds up the slums. And at the top of the slums, like the Kingpin himself, is the Shinra's headquarters, coincidentally named Shinra HQ. The company's named after the founder. And then you've got the infamous Shinra theme tune. Just take a quick drink. Cloud with his big Buster Sword. Tifa and Barrett ready to storm on him. So, here we are at Shinra HQ. Every floor with the 60s is special and not easy to get to even for employees. And Barrett just wants to go straight in. He's going to kick some Shinra butt. And of course, whenever anything else fails, we ask Cloud. Now, irrespective of what you click on here, you get the option for both. So let's click, let's sneak in quietly to make Tifa happier. That will improve the love score for Tifa and decrease it for Barrett.
Okay, and that was all for this, the 6th part of the Midgar playthrough from Avalanche's Final Fantasy VII playthrough. We've completed some of the issues that we said, getting towards the Midgar building, buying the batteries and climbing up the plate support. In the next episode we're going to be starting our sort of ascent of the Shinra HQ, completing lots of tasks and also fighting quite a few boss battles in the next couple of episodes. So that's something we've got to look forward to as the playthrough continues.